CJ McCollum joined Stephen A. Smith on Stephen A's World. He was talking about the Pelicans getting bounced from the playoffs, Zion, everything about that. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this video and see what my boy, the king of New Orleans, CJ, has to say.
Live from LA, Philadelphia 76ers up 17, 98-81, pulling away from the Brooklyn Nets. We've got CJ McCollum here, and my man Mike Wilbon is here now, CJ. Mike Wilbon is sitting with us now.
CJ, what's happening?
You know? So
good to see you, bro.
So CJ, the West has been wild. The West has been absolutely wild.
The West is wild. All right. And this was why I was so disappointed in the Pelicans into the season, because I feel like the West is winnable. I feel like a lot of teams could win the West. It's not one of those things where there's a dominant force like the Warriors have been. The Warriors are on a bit of a slide. The Suns, a lot of question mark with the Suns. The Clippers are perennially hurt all the time. So I felt like, and the Nuggets aren't even a dominant one seed, right? So the West is wild. I think any team could come out of the West. If you told me that the Suns are in the finals, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me the Warriors, I wouldn't be surprised. If you told me the Nuggets, wouldn't be surprised. If you told me the Lakers, wouldn't be surprised. So the fact that the Pelicans aren't even in that kind of roulette is disappointing.
Do you view it as a missed opportunity, or do you view it as the Western Conference being stronger than it's ever been?
It's for sure a missed opportunity. I don't think the West is stronger than it's ever been. I mean, so again, some of the years where you have a generational Warriors team, the past couple of years here, that's where I think you can sit back and say, like, look, the West is insane. Like, the level of competition is crazy. So that's how I would phrase that. This is not that. This is a huge missed opportunity, and I know CJ is going to say it's a missed opportunity. CJ, it would be crazy if CJ came back and was like, actually, yeah, no, I think the West is just really good. So, yeah, we don't view it as a missed opportunity at all. We just feel like everyone else was really good. The Pels should be in the conversation with the likes of the Kings, with the likes of the Suns, with the likes of the Warriors, the Grizzlies. They should be in that conversation. They shouldn't be sitting at home, and CJ shouldn't be doing this from his basement.
Since you have so many teams who could come out of it.
I absolutely view it as a missed opportunity for us because of where we were at. We had a chance to solidify a home playoff spot in this upcoming playoffs. Like, we could be playing at the crib right now if we're healthy, if we take care of business and we do what we're supposed to do throughout the season in terms of beating the teams we're supposed to beat. Like, no offense to some of the teams that are under 500, but you can't lose to the Houston Rockets, right? With 2 weeks left in the season when you're trying to get into the playoffs. You can't lose to the Orlando Magic twice, and we did those types of things. We lost.
And not only that, but you can't lose to bad teams, no doubt about it. But you also can't blow 20-point leads against the Clippers. You can't blow a 15-point first quarter lead against the Kings. You can't blow those games, right? You can't blow the Timberwolves game. I mean, for sure, you've got to beat the bad teams. But the Pelicans were just as guilty of blowing games that they had huge leads in. I mean, to me, that was more frustrating than blowing the games against the Rockets or the Magic. Was watching them get up 15, 20 points in Minnesota and then lose the game as Minnesota's fighting each other and getting thrown off the sidelines. That was disappointing. Sacramento, watching us go up to this huge lead. Oops, LOL. We blew the lead not only in the game but in the first quarter, and then went on to lose by 20. Things like that. Against the Thunder, we blow a big first quarter lead. So that was hard to stomach for sure. And if you look at these standings, I mean, from Denver all the way down to probably to Dallas, I would say, somewhere in there. Like, none of those teams are that good. There's no reason the Pelicans should be in the 9th seed. That's crazy to me.
Lost to the Lakers on that Ryan 3, and I think those games kind of shifted our season to where 1 or 2 games is the difference between you being a 4 or 5 seed and an 8, 9, 10 seed planning to play in. But I think for us, we definitely look at this as a missed opportunity, but a learning experience to where hopefully next season we grow from this. We take advantage of a good start, and we take advantage of making sure that we're all available, making sure that we're all healthy, and making sure that we're not having bad losses next season.
This is a different conversation for a different day, but what he just talked about, the losses chipping away at a season, to me, that's such a big conversation with how the NBA is played now, where you have an 82-game season, but you have this mindset of load management and not playing starters on back-to-backs and not all that stuff. But at the end of this season, you can look back and be like, well, damn, if we wouldn't have lost 2 games against the Magic and the game against the Rockets, we wouldn't even have been in the play-in. We would have been in the 5 seed or the 4 seed or whatever. So it's just a weird thing because I feel like the season, the standings, the way the NBA is set is philosophically different than how teams are approaching it. Teams are approaching resting starters, giving starters a ton of time to come back from injury, when with how tight the race is now with the play-in tournament, with how tight everything is, maybe it's just time to not do that. Like maybe it's time to go back to like, hey, look, you have to play. We have to get every game we possibly can. Whereas back in the day, a couple years ago, you could drop 2-3 games. It really wouldn't matter that much at the end of the day. But now with the play-in tournament, everything's just so compact that you can't basically hand away 3-4 games per year.
Lorel, Michael Wilbon, and y'all got a question?
I just wonder, CJ, you got some talented young players on that team. We talk about Zion all the time, but you got some talented young players, plural. What do you do now? Like, do you take some time away from it to let them get away from the hurt of what you just described? Do you jump right back in the lab? Do you go to the whip hand? How do you, as a leader and somebody who's been through this for a lot of years, what do you do now?
I think it's different strokes for different folks. I think some players will get right back into it. I think some players will be working out today. I think other players need a week, 2 weeks, a month to just get away from everything, reset, and then come back and get ready in the offseason. CJ is a unique situation because CJ is having surgery. CJ is going right into thumb surgery, so he's not going to be able to hit the ground running and just go into the gym. He in his own personal situation, he needs a couple months just to recover from surgery. So I would guess they're going to take a few weeks and kind of reevaluate.
I think personally, you disconnect. You disconnect for a little bit. For me personally, I'll be going to get surgery on my hand probably in about a week. I told all the guys, I'll be reaching out, but take a few weeks, really sit back and reflect on this season, on ways we can improve, but also on what you did well, because I think a lot of times you get caught up in the negatives of a tough year because it's ebbs and flows, but you got to really reflect on things that we did well and ways that we actually improved as a unit, and then be realistic and think to yourself, how can I be better individually and bring this back to our team? And for me, I'm always a look in the mirror guy, right?
CJ's the man. What an answer.
We went through a lot of injuries this year. The load shifted on a lot of guys. Down the stretch of the season, we had no Jose. Larry was banged up. I was banged up. So for me, it's like, how can I be better so that if we do have situations in which we are injured or guys are in and out the lineup, how can I be better so that I'm great every night? Because the moral of the story is, whether guys are available or not, if VI and myself or Z and myself, a combination of us are on the court, we should have a chance to be competitive. The problem was that we were without both of them for long periods of time, and then we were without certain role players for long periods of time, and that put a lot of stress on our roster. But with that being said, we still had a chance to win 45 to 50 games, so that shows you how good we can be, but what we still need to improve upon.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And there's another clip he talks about where he talks about Zion, I think. So I want to play that. So we're going to play that real quick.
There's misconceptions about how the team.
All right, so here we go. So now they ask him about Zion, the misconceptions of kind of how he's viewed in the media and viewed with the team. So here we go.
DJ, I asked you a question going into the break about the importance of availability. I brought up Zion. I wanted to know the mentality of the team as it pertained to that. What do you have to say about it?
All right, so I would have to just guess. But as a teammate, I would assume it's very frustrating. He's obviously not going to say that. But I would think at this point, Zion has, quote unquote, played 4 seasons in the NBA. This is his 5th season coming up. And we're still asking these questions. If you're CJ, if you're a guy who it's like, I only have a few years left, especially at a high level, it has to be frustrating to see Zion windmill dunking before an elimination game at home and then sitting on the sidelines and watching you get eliminated. In any team environment that I've ever been in, I know I would be frustrated at some point with constantly dealing with that, constantly seeing that, constantly dealing with Zion being hurt or not hurt or sitting or whatever. There's a giant banner outside of the Blender, outside of the Smoothie King Center, that says the bounce is back, and it has a picture of Zion. It's like a Jordan branded billboard, and that's been up all year. And every game when we walk into it, all the fans are joking around saying the bounce is not back. The bounce has not been back since January. The bounce has been gone since January 2nd when the bounce pulled his hamstring. Like, put someone else on the wall. Put someone else on the billboard. I'm sure as a teammate, when they're driving in there and they're seeing that, they're like, nope, he ain't back. He's not been back. So it's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think there's misconceptions about how the team feels, how the organization feels, how the fans feel about Zion. I think the moral of the story is we all want him out there on the court. We all understand the importance of the gravity that he has. We understand the importance of the greatness that he possesses. And me personally, I want him to maximize that. I want him to maximize his talent. I want him to maximize his window, our window as a team, our window as an organization. And I think for him, obviously battling through injuries, having gone through, some setbacks with the hamstring, it was a frustrating process. And I think the interview he didn't really give him the fair light that he kind of deserved in this.
The interview was terrible. That whole 48 hours was terrible because he gives the interview. He says that physically he's fine, but he wants to wait until he feels like Zion. He says all that going into an elimination game where tensions are already high. Then he follows that up by the windmill dunking pregame performance, smiling and laughing. And a lot of people, me, the fans, but a lot of outside media had looked at that as a thumb in the eye. Like flicking your nose or whatever at the fans, saying like, yeah, I'll be back when I feel like I'm Zion. Oh, by the way, here's a reverse 360 windmill through the leg dunk. Now let me take my seat on the bench here while we get boat raced by the Thunder and send y'all packing. The fans, I understand what CJ is saying, and I want the same thing. I want Zion to maximize his talents. I want him on the floor, all that stuff. But at some point, it comes to a head. And I feel like it has come to a head as a Pelicans fan. I feel like it's come to a head for the entire group, like the whole Pels 12, the whole fanhood. We are sick and tired of dealing with this. We're sick and tired of this roller coaster we're on of Zion's good, Zion's hurt, Zion's sad, Zion's who knows. We're waiting on, I feel like a fool because for weeks, literally, February, March, April, May, 3.5 months, basically, we were waiting week to week basis on medical imagery for his hamstring, which obviously was never coming, which obviously was not a thing because, like he has said, he's physically fine. It's just a mental thing of if he can be back. So we're sitting here hoping his hamstring heals up when that's not even the problem. Like the whole thing has it's gotten out of control, and it's time for Zion to figure out what he wants to do and the player he can become or will become. But for 5 years in, I personally am sick and tired of dealing with it. I would rather trade Zion and never see his maximized potential for a player that is going to be there night in, night out, and will play.
Situation, obviously, there's some things I think we all could have done better collectively in terms of his rehab process. But the moral of the story is that he was injured. He tried to come back. He had a setback, and he wasn't clear to move on to like the next step in his progression from a clearance standpoint. And obviously, he was working out before the game, and I think people seen him dunking and just assumed that he could play. But the reality of the matter is that he wasn't physically ready.
But he said he was. He said, I'm physically fine. He said, I'm physically ready. I physically can play. So is this CJ backtracking and protecting Zion? Or, is this real? And Zion was the one that was wrong. It's hard for me to believe that Zion would say he's physically fine if he wasn't physically fine. Another thing I'm sick and tired of dealing with, and this happens in baseball all the time, but I'm sick and tired of players getting hurt. And then there's like a ramp up period, another period of like practices, then a period of like non-contact, then a period of like, simulated game. Then you're okay to play. It's like, damn, man, like what happened to pulled his hamstring on Tuesday? He's going to be out for a week. When a week is up, he goes into the game. I mean, I see that I I play fantasy baseball, and I have this with my pitchers all the time. When they pull an oblique, next thing you know, it's like, all right, now they're going to throw a bullpen session. Now they're going to throw in a pool. Now they're going to throw batting practice. Now they're going to throw to live hitters. Now they're going to go on a rehab assignment. Now they're going to go pitch a simulated game in the bullpen. Now they're going to play, but they're going to be limited to 40 pitches. You know, it's like, holy shit, we're 2.5 months in. Damn, like that. I think that's crazy in the NBA now, and I understand the whole, like, you know, physical therapy and all that, but it's just gotten out of hand where an injury, and I'm not a doctor, but I would say Zion's injury is a minor injury. It's crazy that a minor injury can take that much ramp up, that much scheduling, just get him in the game. You know, like, that's something else that's grating on the fans. Is this like, rolls his ankle? Could be a week, could be 2.5 months. I don't know. Will he ever be 100% again? Who the hell knows?
Mentally ready to come back. And for us as players, we know what it's like. I know what it's like personally to go through injuries. And if you're not physically and mentally ready, you cannot step on that court, especially in a playoff atmosphere. And I think for him, as we move forward into our organization, it's more about putting him in position to succeed on and off the floor, but him also taking the challenge to make sure he's doing the right things to ensure himself the ability to be available for us.
You know, I disagree with that. I disagree with the whole, like, if you're not 100% this, you can't step on the floor. If I didn't go to work every time that I didn't feel 100%, I'd barely ever be there. Like, who feels 100% all the time? Who feels 100%? Especially an athlete. You always have tweaks. You always have sorenesses. You always have aches. You're always, you know, you could be having some anxiety. You could be nervous, whatever. Like, part of being a great professional athlete is being able to compartmentalize that stuff and show up when you have to play. And I know this kind of spits in the face of today's day and age of the whole, like, protect the player, mental health this, mental health that, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about sports, when we're talking about a game like this, if you cannot get yourself to where you're playing, that's a huge problem. You know, like, the greats and the greats have always shown up when they had to. I hate to make these comparisons because you can't prove them, whatever, but Michael Jordan is not sitting out that game, an elimination game. Kobe Bryant's not sitting out that game. Kevin Garnett's not sitting out that game. Brett Favre ain't missing that game. Tom Brady ain't missing that game. You know, like, I mean, we saw what Patrick Mahomes did this year on his ankle. High ankle sprain. Guy missed a half, you know, like, and that's the NFL, and drug his team to the Super Bowl. Would anybody have blamed Patrick Mahomes if he would have been like, look, guys, I got a high ankle sprain. I'm not going to be able to play. Chad Henne, you do you. I'm not 100%. I don't want to step on the field unless I'm 100%. People would have understood that. We've all had high ankle sprains. We understand how serious of an injury that is. But at that level of athlete, you have to be able to get yourself on the floor. And so it's just, to me, it's time we remove the kid gloves with Zion. But let me know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, about CJ's interview. Good stuff from CJ always. I love the guy. Great mind. Enjoy hearing him talk. He's always available. He's a great champion for the city, great champion for the team. There's no one else I would rather be doing this interview than CJ. So good stuff from CJ. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Zion. Is it time we remove the kid gloves? I mean, or am I wrong? You know, am I wrong? Does he deserve a little bit more grace and patience from me? Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.